welcome to Become a Wildlife Heritage Area. All your questions answered, guaranteed. I mean, maybe not all, but certainly quite a few. Let's say quite a few. My name's Dylan Walker. I am one of the program coordinators for the Wildlife Heritage Areas program. And I'm also really pleased to be able to say that I have two of my colleagues here, experts on the subject of wildlife heritage areas, who will be joining me with the presentations that we're running. Let me first allow Lloyd Gofton to introduce himself. Lloyd, say hi.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you.
Thanks, Lloyd. And also Ellie Cuevas from the World Cetacean Alliance Whale Heritage Areas Programme. Ellie, how are you doing?
Hi everyone, nice to be here, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for taking part today. So, without further ado, let's talk about our plan for the next hour, where we are going to take you through absolutely everything wildlife heritage area related. So, we have a bit of an agenda. We're going to talk through some different things with you. We would like to start by introducing the program, really explaining about how it works and why we started it. Talk to you about the benefits of wildlife heritage areas. Ellie is going to talk you through a wonderful case study example from Costa Rica. We're then going to take some questions, and then Lloyd is going to talk you through how you actually apply to become a wildlife heritage area, what's involved, and our hopefully simple and easy to use website to be able to apply. And then we'll have another period at the end of the session where we can take some more questions. However, please feel free to use the chat. This is really about you as much as it is about us. And so we will try and field your questions through the chat as we go through the session as well. So please do pile those in. And if we miss any during this session, we'll try and contact you by email. If there's anything we can't answer now, we'll try and get back to you. So this is all about really hopefully helping you to understand more about this program and why you might want to apply or be involved. So I have to begin by saying we have an exclusive for you today, people. Very, very excited, because at the end of this session, we are offering a concierge service for the first 5 people who sign up to become a wildlife heritage area at the end of this session. So that will be 4 p.m. UTC or GMT time. So you don't have to worry about it now. But this is a one-off offer that we're offering for a free service that we're going to provide, where we can really hopefully handhold you through this process of joining these other incredible wildlife heritage areas that already exist around the world. So first 5 sign-ups will have an opportunity to be part of this service. We'll then get in contact with you. We'll set up a chat like this where we can really find out what your needs are, how we can help you, and you'll have access to our full team of experts to be able to take you through and deal with some of the challenges that many of our applicants have, such as translation issues or just general admin support. We recognise that one of the biggest challenges for our communities signing up for wildlife heritage areas is just simply the time available to be able to go through the process. So we're here to help you speed up that process. So more on that later from Lloyd. So let me introduce the Wildlife Heritage Areas program. It's a global program. It's 1 year old, almost to the day, so very exciting for those of us who've been involved in it for the last few years in its developmental stage. And it's a partnership program developed by the World Cetacean Alliance, who ran its predecessor called Whale Heritage Sites, and World Animal Protection, who have provided much of the funding and sponsorship support for the program currently. So welcome to all those people from WCA and World Animal Protection on this call as well. I wanted to start with a quote from William Gibson, a fictional writer. He said, "The future is already here. It's just not very evenly distributed." And I think in a way that's what we feel about wildlife heritage areas, because they represent the future, the best places where communities have gathered together around the world to protect nature and develop responsible wildlife tourism. And they are special places, and places that we need to protect, support, and of course, promote. And so at the beginning, we kind of asked this what if question, what if what if the world was a better place? What if wildlife and communities came together to protect nature? And we asked some of these questions. So what if wildlife was not cruelly exploited for tourism? What if local communities created responsible wildlife watching destinations that benefited animals, people, and place? What if we celebrated people that worked in harmony, coexisting carefully with the natural world? What if we collaborated and connected and reconnected with each other to protect and respect nature? And what if we emphasized our cultural links, our historic links, our artistic links with nature as a very powerful tool to encourage positive change for animals and people? And really, the Wildlife Heritage Programme came out of those aspirations and a lot of conversations with people in communities, across the NGO network and the travel industry. And this is what we came up with in the end. So wildlife heritage areas are outstanding wildlife watching destinations where local communities recognise their natural heritage with a sense of pride and play a central role in protecting wild animals and their habitats. What is not to like about that? And what sits behind that kind of aspiration is a set of criteria and a process that our communities go through to be able to meet the standards required of a wildlife heritage area. And as a result of our consultation, there were some really key elements that we needed to include in those. We needed to try and make the process as accessible as possible, but it also needed to be robust. It needed to stand up to scrutiny. It needed to be collaborative. We need multiple stakeholders, both in our communities and outside, assessing these areas to make them really work. And it needed to be uplifting, inspirational, and positive. And to achieve all those things, we felt that we could deliver on a number of objectives. We could raise standards for the travel industry, bring together experts, communities, and businesses to drive positive change and promote responsible wildlife experiences that are led or heavily involve local communities. And so these are the criteria that we developed, just touching upon them now. There's lots more information on the Wildlife Heritage Areas website, YouTube videos, etc. But these were our criteria. The cultural importance of wildlife, which we've just touched upon, this sort of respect for human-wildlife coexistence, which draws on both sorts of high animal welfare standards, but also nature conservation initiatives, responsible wildlife tourism, setting high standards there for respectful tourism with wildlife, and then governance. So how do our local community come together, form a steering committee, share advice, and work collaboratively to deliver for nature locally, which they do through a management plan. And these are all the requirements to actually become designated as a wildlife heritage area. Critical to the success of the programme from our perspective was to develop a really easy to use and accessible online web platform to enable people to log in, log out, and really add information at any point along the process at any time. And Lloyd's going to talk to you more about how that works. Who can apply to become a wildlife heritage area? Well, to be honest, basically anybody can. Anybody who lives in a local community, passionate about nature and wildlife, really want to make a difference. So it could be somebody who represents a local business. They could come from the charitable sector. They might just be an individual doing this stuff in their spare time, a community champion. Many of our wildlife heritage areas are driven by those kind of individuals. Could be a scientist or someone from an academic background or another stakeholder. The point is that anybody can start this process. But as you go through the process, you need to collaborate more and more. So you need to involve other people who also have a stake in nature in that location to be able to deliver the requirements of the criteria. Really proud to have 18 candidate and designated wildlife heritage areas already across the globe. They are on every continent except Antarctica. We have whale and dolphin heritage areas. We have gorilla, elephant, orangutan, bear heritage areas, for example, and many more coming, which is so exciting. Even after 1 year, all of our wildlife heritage areas together combined cover an area the size of Belgium and we have 12 million visitors a year across our WHAs, which is roughly the same number of people who went to the Paris Olympics this year. So really, really amazing impact, even in these early stages. We're also really proud to have lots of high-profile, responsible travel businesses and ethical nature conservation and animal welfare non-profit organisations who've really helped to support the development of the Wildlife Heritage Area programme, some of which are on the call today, and we thank you for your ongoing support, which is essential to our success, really. There are many benefits to the Wildlife Heritage Area programme of signing up, going through the process and becoming a candidate area, and indeed becoming designated. One is that we aim to make sure that this is free to the communities that actually want to apply to become wildlife heritage areas. It means we have to find sponsorship. Sometimes that can come from discussions with those communities, from local business sponsors. We have many wildlife heritage areas currently sponsored by our founding partners, so World Animal Protection and WCA, sponsoring areas currently as well. But we're really trying to keep the cost away from the communities as much as possible. We'll shortly be launching a new program with some of our travel industry partners to be able to sponsor areas as well and provide that funding to enable our communities to really carry on doing the incredible work that they're doing. So that's really important. This project is purpose-built for communities. The entire framework is supportive and hopefully encouraging and really pushes people on to do great things. So it's set up for local communities. But it's also about promoting responsible wildlife tourism. We need to see tourism shifting to the wild and to these responsible tourism experiences. So you will see those showcased very, very clearly through the website. We showcase our heritage areas, our communities through our fabulous website and our listing pages, which are very user-friendly and attractive, but also through promotional campaigns that we run. And we intend to deliver tangible economic benefits to these wildlife heritage areas by linking them to responsible travel providers who will encourage their customers to visit these specific locations and put money in the pockets of local communities that deliver these incredible projects. We have a network of NGOs and wildlife experts who can connect with our tour operators and our communities that are applying, which is really, really valuable asset. And of course, we have this focus on cultural heritage, celebrating not just nature, but the link between nature and culture is so important for wildlife heritage areas and for long-term sustainability within these locations. We have a website and listing pages which are really attractive, and they showcase the impact of these communities on nature and the positive outcomes really nicely. You can see here, for example, you can kind of trawl through stories, experiences, look at images and videos showing exactly what's happening in these fabulous locations. We're also really, really pleased to see some of our responsible wildlife tourism partners really kind of taking on the Wildlife Heritage Area project within their own businesses. Here, Exodus have got wonderful website pages that really encourage their customers to visit their experiences, but within our Wildlife Heritage Area portfolio. And we're working with other travel providers who are our partners to be able to deliver similar exposure, which is really fantastic for the programme. We also try to deliver as much extensive press coverage as we can through our own networks and through our NGO founders to ensure that, particularly when sites and areas become designated or become candidate, we can promote them as much as possible. But we also promote the programme more widely through journalistic articles and through visiting travel events. Our colleague Holly is at World Travel Market at this moment in time. So that's a very brief introduction to the programme. I'm going to pass you now to Ellie, who's just going to use this graphic to talk about one particular whale heritage area and what makes it so special. Over to you, Ellie.
Thank you, Dylan. Yes, so I want to share the example of Golfo Dulce and how has the community come together and function as a whale heritage area. So Golfo Dulce is located in Costa Rica and is actually the first fully designated wildlife heritage area in Latin America. And this status has unified the community around the shared purpose of preserving marine life, especially humpback whales, which are iconic in the region. And this all started with a local conservation NGO, OSA Ecology, and they led the efforts from the beginning, reaching out to other key stakeholders like NGOs, government representatives, and local businesses, but as well as researchers, artists, to invite them to participate in this initiative, but ultimately to ensure that the protection of Golfo Dulce is prioritized. So working closely through dialogues and planning, a collaborative leadership and community involvement started to take shape. They also use and strengthened some local businesses partnerships that they already had, including tour operators and the local boat association, which promotes sustainable, ethical tourism practices, and that obviously are aligned with the Wildlife Heritage Area mission. And fortunately, the entire tourism sector has supported this focus. But they also reached out to the wider local community, and they did this through educational and awareness initiatives. For example, hosting workshops with the National Institute of Learning, developing a new whale festival, and having specialist talks as well to educate residents and tourists, but always using these opportunities to talk about this initiative and encourage engagement. And not just that, but also this new collaborative approach them with legal advocacy, where, for example, various NGOs and researchers presented data to advocate for more robust protection in the Golfo Dulce, kind of leveraging the World Heritage Area status as a strong foundation for seeking its designation as a marine protected area. So many benefits already from the beginning, and by coming together and forming their steering committee, going through the application process, they finally obtained their World Heritage Area status in September last year. And it's truly amazing and very inspiring to see everything they have achieved in just 1 year. And I can say a lot about that, but just to summarize, the designation has enabled targeted campaigns and collaborations, but also practical and policy-driven improvements. Some examples of this have been focused on sustainable tourism campaigns, for example, promoting responsible whale watching practices and developing a tourism model that balances the economic benefits with environmental preservation. Also, these new alliances and this closer collaboration with local NGOs and government bodies have enabled broad community participation with initiatives like the Guinness World Record of the largest image of a whale made by humans, which they achieved 2 months ago, I think, which brought a lot of awareness and pride to the local community. This Wildlife Heritage Area status also has already enhanced some research efforts, so drawing international and national scientists to contact groups locally and that want to study whales and dolphins in Golfo Dulce, which is fantastic. And as I mentioned before, also since from the beginning, they have been trying to develop new ways to celebrate whales and dolphins through murals and art, artistic events, but also developing this new annual whale festival, which has been very, very successful. This year they had their second whale festival. And it has also been endorsed for funding opportunities aimed at marine conservation, allowing projects to receive greater support. So I know it's a lot, but overall, the Wildlife Heritage Area designation has given Golfo Dulce residents a stronger sense of identity and pride in their natural environment, but also encouraging them to take part in conservation efforts and bolstering their commitment to protecting marine life and supporting their own community. And I believe that this is creating a legacy that will inspire other regions seeking wildlife heritage areas status. So this was very quick, but obviously we are here to answer questions as well. And actually, I believe that is now time for questions, right, Ilan? So if you have questions about Golfo Dulce and this example, please feel free to ask.
Thank you so much, Ellie. That is such an inspiring example. And they've been a whale heritage area for how long?
Just 1 year now. Yeah.
So exciting. So great.
Yes.
Thanks, Ellie. That's really, really helpful. So we'll take a bit of a break from presentations. In case anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute your microphone, give us a shout out, or you can share in the chat if you prefer. Anyone has any questions about the application process, what Wildlife Heritage Areas is all about, or Ellie's wonderful example from Costa Rica, feel free to check in and ask us. Oh, there's always an awkward pause at this moment while everyone tries to desperately think of a really good question. Any thoughts? I have a question for you, Ellie. What is it about that community that really allowed them to kind of fast track, the wildlife heritage or the whale heritage area application process? What ingredients did they have really?
I think the most important aspect of it, and this is for all the whale heritage areas that I have been working with, is the collaborative aspect of it, and also thinking out of the box, right? Because at least for whale heritage areas, and I'm sure that for other wildlife heritage areas like tiger heritage areas, you could think about like just reaching out to people that relates directly to these species. Let's say here, like only people that work in whale watching or that work with cetaceans are the key stakeholders, and therefore the only ones to be involved. But actually, when people reach out to others, even the most unexpected stakeholders, to tell them about the initiative, to offer the opportunity to join this effort, and then is when you start to get this wider collaboration, new alliances, and I believe that will set up the success of your not just your application, but of your area in the long term. So always thinking about who else can be part of this. Not be afraid of asking the authorities, not be afraid of asking the tourism board or other institutions. The cultural board of even nationally, So I think that reaching out to everyone and involving local people has been key, just normal people, kids, and residents to be part of these efforts and to know about the wildlife heritage area, so everyone can feel proud of it and we feel part of it as well.
That's where that pride really kicks in, isn't it? When we've made the effort to try to reach out beyond the people who are already, passionate about this subject to a sort of wider community. And the framework for wildlife heritage areas really tries to encourage that, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I think that's the heart of it, because, people have to start thinking about that from the beginning. There is no way, to do it without reaching out to people from the beginning. You want to form a steering committee, you have to reach out to others, and that's how this program and this framework works. So it's leading these communities kind of like with a strong foundation from the beginning.
Absolutely. Fantastic. And we should say that because if you look on the Wildlife Heritage Areas website at the moment and go to explore areas, you'll see that the majority of those areas are whale heritage areas currently. A whole bunch of absolutely incredible places that I wish I'd been to, all of them. And that's because Ellie and the team at World Cetacean Alliance have been running this program for longer. Like I say, it does sort of predate the Wildlife Heritage Area program. So the whale heritage areas have sort of evolved into this larger program. And that means that the communities, when they apply, it's really up to them to choose what species or habitat they would like to kind of associate with. So in broadest terms, they can become just a wildlife heritage area, because they're passionate about all biodiversity, all animal species and plant species, etc. But they can also choose the species that they have a cultural reference to, or the species or habitats which are essential for their local economy through tourism or through other means. So, and that means putting that sort of responsibility but kind of option in the hands of local people, and really letting them have the freedom to say, well, do you know what, the thing that we celebrate, the thing that we're proud of, the work, the majority of the work we do here is about rhinos, or is about orangutans, or is about rainforest or coral reefs. And that's the thing we want to really kind of put on a pedestal and celebrate, and use the Wildlife Heritage Area program to tell the world that actually we do some pretty incredible things here, and some great initiatives, or something that's innovative that hasn't been tried anywhere else, and we really need everyone else to know about it. So I think that's very sort of empowering. It's worked incredibly well for the whale heritage areas, and hopefully as we encourage more people in from around the world to the program, we can see lots of other species and habitats coming in, and really learn about the communities that are working so hard to protect them and share them through responsible tourism. So that is, I think we're all kind of dead excited every time a new wildlife heritage area comes in with a new species, to see how that actually pans out, and learn from these communities as much as they are learning from us. Wonderful. Well, I'll tell you what, we have further opportunities for questions. So I think, given that we are halfway through the webinar, I know what you're thinking, it's flown by. I'm going to pass you over to Lloyd, who has many, many skills, but he is a technical website and social media guru. And he is going to talk you through how to actually apply to become a wildlife heritage area. So I'm just going to share the presentation screen again with you all. Let's just do that. And Lloyd, over to you.
Thanks, Dylan, and thank you for that amazing introduction. I will certainly be adding that to my CV moving forward. So actually, one question I wanted to come back to on Ellie, which I'll probably ask later if that's okay, relates to the first point I want to make, really. And I'm going to take you through the online process, or just give you a quick overview of how we move applicants through from aspiring into a candidate area. So that candidate area is where you first get on the website. But if we could move on to the next slide, then we're going to start by just confirming that this platform, our entire website and the database behind it, and the full CMS was built from scratch. Now, I'm not saying that just to justify what we've been up to for the last few years, but really saying that because it's important, because building a full process that allows us to understand how communities are working alongside species into a series of criteria and put that online is a challenge. There's no way around that. And it's not a challenge we could do with an off-the-shelf piece of software. So we've built this from the ground up. And the reason I'm stipulating that is because we've tried to make it as simple as possible. And the question I was going to come back to Ellie about later was about how we help people through that process. Even though it is an online process, we do definitely still help. So maybe we can cover that off later. But that's the first point I want to make. This is a completely transparent and collaborative process built on criteria that Dylan's already mentioned. But it allows us to break down the process in a way that is easy for the areas to apply. As well as that, there's also lots of helpful information that can help you on the website. So within our website, we've got an Apply Now section that I'll take you through in a minute. And we've also got an application support section, which you can see on the slide here. And that covers 5 key things like meeting our 5 criteria, information that you'll need to gather on the species and habitat, information you'll need on your tourist experiences, information on the area steering committee, and the information assets you'll need on your listing page. So check out that page first, and that will give you all the information we need there. But if we can move on to the next slide, Dylan. There we go. It's a really simple process, and I'm going to take you through that in a minute, but it all starts by clicking on the Apply Now section of the website. And I think we're going to go through that in the next slide now. Today, I'm going to take you through the aspiring and candidate stages of the Wildlife Heritage Areas application process. So hopefully by now you've already registered on the website, but if you haven't, it's very easy to do. Simply go to Apply Now, and you can see here we have a whole application support element with drop downs on all the information you'll need to know. But to get started, all you need to do is start your application, fill in the information here, your name, details on your area, and then hit send. And once you've accepted the email you'll receive, you're in to your dashboard. The dashboard itself is divided into 3 key areas. And that's aspiring, candidate, and designated. So we're going to be dealing with aspiring level and candidate level today. And as you can see, they're color coded into yellow, light green for candidate level, and dark green for designated, so yellow being aspiring. So actually, you've already done some of that. So the aspiring level, the summary is already covered off by your registration. So within the next stage of aspiring is your species and habitat information. Now, I've already been in and pre-populated this around a project that I do work on in real life. I work for Sussex Dolphin Project, and therefore I have filled in this area around the Sussex Dolphin Heritage Area, focused on bottlenose dolphins in the Eastern English Channel. So as you can see here, within the species and habitat information, I've simply filled in the key information required, including obviously the species title, the stability, the threats, actions taken. Now, the actual text required is quite small because obviously we want to make this an engaging listing page for those that view your area itself. So not too much information to go in there, but you can see I've added all the details, and I've added in my wildlife watching guidelines here, and I'm ready to go, or I can add a new record here if I want. So once I've saved that, I can go back to my dashboard, and you'll see as we go back through to the dashboard that the next stage here is to request to work with an assessor. Now, although you can drop in and out of these areas as you need it, we do recommend that you request to work with an assessor at the earliest opportunity. Now, the assessor isn't there just to check your work, as it were, or just to confirm that you have the right information. They're very much there to help you through the process. So it's really useful to have that assessor early on. So within this assessor aspect of the dashboard, you'll have a drop-down menu, select the relevant assessor that works with your species, hit send, and that assessor will then come back to you to say if they're willing to work with you. And obviously the vast majority of them will be willing to move ahead straight away. And once that assessor is in place, they can help you to move through the process. And often people will ask us, well, what information will I need as I go through that process? And as I showed you at the start, there's some handy information on our website already. But what you can also do, of course, is look at existing areas. Now we have 18 areas already on the platform, some of which, like this one, the Dana Point Whale Heritage Area, are already designated. So that means all the information is already in this area. So my advice to you is to have a look through the area, check out the videos, the summaries. You can see here we have a handy drop menus, species and habitat details, lots of nice images that they've included here that you can see how brilliant they look. Information on threats, did you know, and the information goes on through to their stories that we're going to come on to in a minute, and here into their experiences. So those are the actual experiences that our tourists can take part in. But just going back here, again, although we're not dealing with the designated aspects today, you can see all the designated information that the areas have added to their listing page by simply clicking here to looking for in-depth information, click read more. And when we click that read more, you will then have access to all the information that this area has added to become a designated area. So a huge part of wildlife heritage areas is being transparent with that information. We're not trying to hide anything away. We want people to know why this area is being designated, as do our area contacts. So you can see everything you need right here about this area, no hiding anything. Lots of criteria information here, lots of drop down, lots of content, lots of files, lots of deeper information, all here as much as you need it. So we've got our 5 criteria here, lots and lots and lots of information. So we're going to deal with that in a separate video, but I just wanted to show you where that was. So back to our dashboard for now. And you can see, as we said, that we've completed our aspiring, and we're now into our candidate stage of our application. So I'm going to drop into experiences, and you can see here that for Sussex Dolphin Project, we've got boat trips and we've got training and we've got all sorts of different experiences. So I've summarized them here, title, the type of trip, and you've got lots of different types of experiences here that you need. In this case, it's a boat-based wildlife tour. So I've added that, I've added a description, and I've linked a separate website. Now you can add an email phone if they're separate or different. So if that provider of that experience is different to the area contacts, but in this case, they're not. So I haven't changed them, but you can do. I've got here another trip, Rampion Wind Farm trip, and I've got here some cetacean survey training. So these are citizen science projects. So again, I can add plenty more here if I want, but I've gone with 3 and I've hit save and I've gone back to my dashboard. So that's my experiences confirmed. So once you click you're happy with them, they go over to the assessor, and the assessor will check them and come back to you with any feedback. And that happens at each of these stages. So our next stage in terms of becoming a candidate area is our listing page. And this is really important. So this is basically your shop window for your area. So this is going to be the first element that any prospective NGOs, any prospective tourists, any prospective tourism operators see. Now, as we saw earlier, the Dana Point listing page here is done brilliantly. So you can see lots of content here, and this is what your shop window or your listing page will look like as well. So back to me. This is my Sussex Dolphin Heritage Area. Now, we do ask for a video summary of your area, and I've dropped in a YouTube version that I've already prepared. And again, lots of people ask us, well, what do I include in my video? We've offered lots of information in our FAQs on our website, and also we've got a YouTube profile with all the relevant area videos that you can see and view to your heart's content. So go onto YouTube, stick in Wildlife Heritage Areas, you'll find our channel, and have a look through those videos there, and you'll see exactly what we want. They're ranging in quality. Some people have done them on phone. Some people have had professional help. Doesn't have to be one or the other. It's whatever works for your area. But we really want to give people a feeling of what the area's like. Call it a virtual safari. That's the way we're looking at it. So if you can do that with a phone, brilliant. If you can offer some help or get some help from a videographer, then even better. So I've got my video, I've added in my image that will make that video a real hero image, and then I started dropping in my stories. So again, your stories are what bring your area to life. So in my case, I've talked about our citizen science project for a story and added in the text here on exactly what we do with our citizen science project and how that's been crucial to the development of the project. I've also added my species and habitat facts. So we've got 5 facts here on bottlenose dolphins and some lovely images. So I've included a whole load of images that people can see on our listing page carousel that you saw on the Dana Point example. So once that's all added, we can just hit save and we can go back to our dashboard. And I think you'll find then that we have completed our aspiring and our candidate level phases. So that means once your assessor has checked those elements, then your listing page can go live and we can help you to move through the designated elements of the process, which we will deal with in a separate video. So you are now ideally ready to look at exactly what your listing page looks like. So you can simply click preview your listing page. And as that loads, you'll see that my image, which isn't pixelated, is of good quality. I can even see the dorsal fin markings here of this dolphin, which is brilliant. You can see here that we can automatically play the video that I uploaded. You can either play that here or you can drop in here. We're going to lose that music. And then we've got species and habitat information, all those images that I took you through. You can scroll through those here. You can see the threats that I listed, my did you know section, which includes my facts. Nice facts there. Obviously, we don't have our designated information in there yet because we are a candidate area, so we won't have that there yet. As you've seen in the Dana Point example, that there will be lots of information there as we move through with our assessor to designation. You can see here my stories. So I've just added 1 story in this example, but I can add lots more. And you can also see I can explore my experiences. So I've added 3 experiences at the moment. My sunset wildlife cruise with a nice image of Brighton Pier there on our boat, Rampion wind farm trip, and our cetacean survey training. So that's a quick preview of what our area will look like. If we're all happy with that, we've submitted. We just need to wait for our assessor to come back and we're ready to go. Today I'm going to... Brilliant. Thank you. Well, thanks for going through that process with me. Hopefully, as you can see, it's pretty straightforward, but we've just condensed some of those points that I went through into some top tips for you guys to take away. So the top 5 tips from my point of view are: 1, to look at other designated areas. So as we said at the start, there's lots of designated areas to look at through the website. They've all got the information that got them through to the designation. So it's all there. So do have a look. Visit the Wildlife Heritage Areas YouTube channel. And you can see in there lots of video examples. So if you're not sure of how to do your virtual safari or your virtual video tour, then there's lots of examples there. Also, as I said in the summary there, you can request your assessor straight away. Now that assessor is there to help you and they will guide you through that process. And that's a point that I was mentioning earlier with Ellie. So if Ellie was acting as an assessor, she would be there to guide you through that process and offer you all her experience of how many times she's done this in the past. So really useful to have that assessor at an early stage. Fourthly, reach out to your area stakeholders early. Again, as Ellie was mentioned earlier in her example, that those stakeholders can not only help you develop your application, they can give you insights that maybe you weren't necessarily aware of on some of the key points, provide video, provide image content, whatever that might be. So bring those guys in early, and again, they can help you. And finally, feel free, if you need to develop your application in your own language, in your first language, if that's not English. We can certainly help you to translate that if required, and some people find it easier to write out that content first in their own language, and then your assessor can help you to develop that into the English language that we might need to process it through, or we can do it in your native language, whatever that helps with. So that's our top 5 tips to take you through. And I think in terms of the final point from me was really to take you through to just list off the concierge points. So Dylan, if you can move us on to the next one. Just a reminder that Dylan took you through at the start, that following this webinar, the first 5 people to start their application, in other words, go onto the website, add their key details and register on the website, will be contacted by us to take them through the concierge service. And what that might be for each area is very different. So some people may need some help with English language, as we've mentioned. Some people might need help with videos. Some people might have all that already. So we'll contact you and take you through that service and make sure that we can get you moving as quickly as possible. And I think, as we say there, the next stage is really to get applying. So we wish you the best of luck.
And also just to say that here's a whole bunch of contact details. Partly for further information, you can go to the website, look at our various social media profiles, or you can contact us personally, myself, Dylan, Lloyd, who you've just heard from, and Ellie, who talked about the amazing Costa Rica Whale Heritage Area in Golfo Dulce. We're all here to help, so please do get in touch after this session if it is helpful to do so. We will be sharing this video. Having said that we'll be sharing the video, I've just stopped sharing the presentation. We have about 10 minutes left to finish off this session. Thank you so much, Lloyd. That was really, really helpful. You make it look so easy, so hopefully it is. If anybody has any questions or have posted in the feed, let's try to answer some of those. So I think let's start with Kathy, who said, I love this program. Thank you, Kathy. Is there networking across the different wildlife heritage areas? Would any, Lloyd or Ellie, would you like to try and cover that one off?
Do you want to go, Ellie, as a person who probably knows many more wildlife heritage areas than I do?
Yeah, happy to go. I think, yeah, we are trying to develop a relationship between all the wildlife heritage areas. Hopefully, like as Dylan said, we are just a year after we launched the Wildlife Heritage Areas program, but we are aiming to build the network, and the more wildlife heritage areas we have, the easier will be to create a hub or a network where they can link to each other. So it's kind of part of our aim. What we have done with whale heritage areas, because we, as you saw, we have already 11 designated, and they have been reaching out to the WCA to have this network and connect to each other. We just starting to build on that. So like offering webinars where they can present on a specific topic, and we are like literally connecting them with one another. You know, we have had a stakeholder or a leading stakeholder from South Africa just traveling in America and visiting all the whale heritage areas around, like from, you know, California to Golfo Dulce and so on. He is still moving down up to Antarctica. So being able to connect them even in presence, it has been a very rich experience. So we hope for the Wildlife Heritage Areas program to also create this sense of network, and the communities can share knowledge and experience as well. So yeah, because we believe that's important too.
Thanks, Ellie. That's absolutely right. And I think also we, in supporting the program, we have the luxury of seeing all the brilliant ideas that come from across these communities and these different wildlife heritage areas. And so therefore, when we have applications coming through, we can see sometimes where the gaps are, and we can hook people up specifically to be able to fill those gaps. Or we might say to a wildlife heritage area, have you heard about what's happening in this other location? They've solved this problem this way. And then somebody might say, I need to talk to that person. How have they actually achieved that? And so we can make those connections. And that, you know, that's incredibly powerful and valuable thing to do, that kind of best practice sharing. So thank you, Ellie. Thanks, Kathy, for that response. Nick says, the wildlife means those needed to protect, or any species. So I think what Nick's getting at here is, are we focusing on, for example, red list species or endangered species, or can it be any species or indeed habitat? Lloyd, perhaps you could take that one for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think the easiest way to answer that is it can be any species, really. It definitely can be. So we're not purely focused on the red list species, although obviously they are very important and vital. What we're really trying to get at is to allow people to see that you can see wildlife in the wild. You don't have to harm wildlife to achieve that. You don't have to damage the environment to achieve that. So if there's wildlife to be seen out there, and we can do it in a responsible way by working with communities on their approach to life as well as that of the wildlife, then brilliant. We want to hear about it, and we want to help you to drive that through using the criteria and our amazing web platform that we've developed as well.
Thanks, Lloyd. Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, just to add to that, this is a grassroots, bottom-up project, and it has to come. The real power and the value of it is in the fact that it doesn't come from us, and it doesn't come from IUCN or any of the big international statutory bodies. It comes from community. It comes from a sense of place and importance. But many of the communities that we work with and those that we hope to work with, the reason that they're coming together in the first place is through an urgent and pressing need. And that might be because they're, losing habitat to some, big commercial institution that they feel powerless against, or it could be that they're seeing massive species decline, or it could be an animal welfare issue, which we see across some of our current wildlife heritage areas that have been able to sort of resolve some of those issues. So those inevitably, I think we will see as wildlife heritage areas develop this sort of commonality between the areas and high level of either endemic species or endangered species, or areas that are solving situations where animals are suffering through, for example, illegal wildlife trade. All those things are topics that our communities are very passionate about. And in fact, we just did some research on this kind of top 10 areas of importance for our current wildlife heritage area communities. I think 8 out of 10 of those top topics were animal welfare issues related. Some of them are much broader, like the top 2 were climate change and biodiversity loss. Not a massive surprise. We all feel that the hurt for that one. But as you start to delve into that, we see lots and lots of animal welfare issues, which is important because it's not really necessarily reflected in some of the wider conservation programs that are being run. But when it comes from community, we see that both animal welfare and nature conservation are equally really important to people. And that's something that we need to showcase through this program. Fantastic. Any other questions? If anybody wants to talk to us directly, you can drop your mics and have a chat, or you can post something on the chat. Feel free. I know that you had a question for Ellie, Lloyd.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, absolutely. It's something I've never actually got to ask you, Ellie, but as I've just shown, hopefully, the web platform is very easy to use and people can do it on their own. However, that's not what we're trying to achieve, is it? So really, I guess, as someone who's taken people through that application process as well, I was wondering if you could explain how an assessor helps people to go through that process. So we're not just saying, here's a website, do it all on your own. We're very much offering that assistance as well. I was just wondering if you could give a little bit of an insight on that.
Of course, and I think it's important to know that the assessor is not just there to review the information you are provided, but our aim is to support you through the process, but making sure that you not just achieve a successful application and become designated, but to build a strong foundation on your wildlife heritage area to move forward after designation. And as Dylan already said, this is a community program. So the assessor could just guide you through the process and through the criteria, but also, having a conversation with your assessor for the assessor to understand the challenges, the strengths and the challenges of your own community and habitat is really important. So the assessor could really provide further support when, for example, you are developing your management plan, or to find those gaps. What is missing? How? What else can you improve? Or even suggesting new key stakeholders to reach out to. So I guess that it's important to say that the assessor is also going to be there as long as you want it, or at least I like to always offer a call, to have a chat, to understand better what are your needs, and to know all the efforts that the community is already making, and that is worth celebrating, right? So it's very important that you use your assessor as practically your companion through this process, and the support that we will give obviously will also be related to how much you ask for. Obviously, it's always as much as we can, right? We also have limited capacity, but we always are there to answer questions, to have a call, to guide you, or to offer advice in which approach you can take, so you can have a successful application and a successful wildlife heritage area. And the last thing is that knowing that we can provide resources to help. You can reach out saying, like, look, I'm struggling filling the application online because I don't have great connection in my area, whatever. So your assessor might be able to offer an offline application form where you can fill it first in a Word document, and then when you have a good connection, copy and paste things and start filling it in the platform. Like, there is always resources for you to take. So just ask your assessor, and I'm sure any one of us will be happy to support.
Thank you so much, Ellie. We are up on time, but that is the perfect way to end. I hope you all enjoyed this kind of introduction to the Wildlife Heritage Area Programme, and nearly all of your questions answered. We're here to help. We're here to support. That's what this programme is all about, is to help our community applicants along the way and really showcase these incredible places where people come together to protect wildlife and protect nature and deliver responsible tourism experiences. Thank you so much to Lloyd and Ellie for helping out today and being part of this webinar. Fantastic to see you all. We'll be sharing this video with a wider group of people who registered as well. So thank you so much, everybody, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.